In part 1 of lecture 2, we will seek to answer the question, what is VI? When Unix first came out in the late 1960s, the idea of a full-screen editor had really yet to poke its head out in public. At that point in time, computers didn't necessarily have the processing power or the amount of memory to handle that, and there weren't that many terminals that could actually support it with any degree of ease. VI came somewhat later. VI stands for Visual Extension, and it was created by Bill Joy, who later was the co-founder of Sun Microsystems. It is essentially part of a succession of editors that started with ED, which was the line-oriented editor we started with, led to EX, which was an extension on ED, and then VI, which allows you, among other things, to include EX instructions in it, which is helpful from time to time. The main alternative editor traditionally to VI was Emacs. That was developed at MIT. And it's a little bit like the PC versus Mac divide. There are people who are VI people, there are people who are Emacs people, and the two don't tend to cross very often. Full-screen editors need to be able to know when to transmit a control code that will tell the terminal to do various things, where to move the cursor, whether or not to clear the screen, whether or not to beep to let the user know they did something they ought not to have done. So the first thing we need to know, or more accurately, what our Linux system needs to know, is which type of terminal we're using. On many systems, that means writing set term equals VT100 or set term equals VT300. That will set the shell variable to indicate the type of terminal you have, so it will use the correct device driver, which is the operating system routine that controls the input device for you. You should not have this issue working on either Panther in the computer lab or working with CompSci. They will pretty much allow you to work with one that is compatible with your PC. If you don't know what the initial terminal type is, if you write echo and then $term with term all in caps, that'll tell you what it is. But again, this is not something that should be an issue for you if you're doing this from using PuTTY, using a PC or Mac, and of course doing this on CompSci or Panther. What you see on the screen right now is my typing the command echo $term. What it tells me, and I try this both on Panther and on CompSci, which you'll be working on, is that what I have is xterm. Xterm is short for an X terminal. It's a particular type of terminal that was designed specifically for Unix systems. This is what your shell should be set for, and as a result of that, you have no reason or no need to play around with it at all. However, I mention this because there will be times on other installations, not ours, that you may need to know this. When a user logs in to a Linux terminal, there's a profile that is going to get used to initialize the terminal session. This is an example of what's called a hidden file, because it begins with a period. When you do a normal file listing, these don't show up. The profile here is a series of commands that will run as you log in. The if and then in square brackets -f tells you that if the following file exists, then you're going to do something else. In this case, what it's looking for is the file .bashrc, and if it's there, it will run that. That helps initialize the terminal for us. It sets our path, which is the standard path in Unix. A path, as we'll talk more about later, indicates the directories in which it will look for programs that it's going to run. Export path means that we'll use this path with all our files, and then along the way, the unset will delete the system variable username. Now, why it does that is a story for another day. Now it's time to start VI, and the way in which we do it is to type VI, and then the name of the file that we are looking to edit. If that file is going to be in our current working directory, then there's no reason to list anything other than the name of the file. If it's going to be in a subdirectory of whatever directory we're currently working in, then you would need the name of that subdirectory, a slash, and then the name of the file. That's something we'll talk more about in lecture 3 rather, I'm sorry. If the file is new, what you're going to get is a screen that is nearly blank. The only thing that will separate it are some tildes on the screen that are there to indicate that that's beyond the end of the file. Now initially, you're going to be in command mode, one of the two separate modes that you're going to have when using VI. If you want to start editing text, you'll need to type the letter I, lowercase, or the letter A, again, lowercase, and then you can start to enter the text in question. What you're looking at right now is essentially what you'll see on your terminal screen when you start running VI. Each of these tildes indicate that this is beyond the end of the available text. Given that it goes up to the very top of the screen, clearly it's indicating that there is nothing in the file. And if this is a brand new file, that should come as no surprise. On the bottom, you'll see the name of the file as you've given it, and next to it, new file, because that is exactly what it is. VI, like EX and ED before it, works out of one of two separate modes. Command mode, where you are editing text and using one of the various commands for that purpose, or you're in input mode and you're entering text. Now, to get to command mode from input mode is fairly straightforward. All you do is press the escape key. There are 6 different alternatives if you're looking to go into input mode. These are A, either lowercase or capital, I, lowercase or capital, O, lowercase or capital. The lowercase commands will basically pick up exactly where the cursor is. The capital letter commands are looking to begin work on a line. What you see on the screen are the 6 commands that will allow you to enter input mode, each being a little different from the other. A is short for append. In lowercase, it'll pick up wherever the cursor is. It'll start appending after the location of the cursor. If the cursor is in the middle of the line, it will pick up on the character in the middle of the line right after where the cursor is. This is different from capital A, which will start appending after the current line, no matter where on that line the cursor is. I is for insert, and it will insert before. If it's lowercase I, it will insert before the current position of the cursor. And again, if the cursor is in the middle of the line, it will begin inserting in the middle of the line in that position before the cursor, with all of the text on that line moving further to the right as you go along. Insert before will insert with a capital I will insert before the current line. Now O is short for open line. Lowercase o will open a line above the current one. Capital O will open below the current one, and capital O will open a line above the current line. Now the question is, why do we need all of these? And it really depends on where you are, what you're working on. The differences between I and A are particularly important at the beginning or end of a line. A at the end of the line will allow you to continue that line. I at the beginning of a line will allow you to insert things before whatever began the line. The other thing to notice is that this is a very line-oriented editor in its own sense. You're always working in the context of a given line. There is no automatic word wrap. That's something that you need to keep in mind when you're working with this. One of the things that you have to understand about VI that's important is that its original function had a great deal to do with writing programs, and keeping things straight line by line was a very big factor in it. You might imagine that with the power that we have with a screen-oriented editor, we wouldn't want to use the line-oriented commands of EX. However, there are occasions when one command in EX can do things that would take you many subsequent commands if you were doing this in VI. Now, the way it works is that you start off by typing a colon. When you type the colon, and this has to be done again in command mode, then you type in the command. So colon S slash X slash Y slash will replace the next occurrence on this line of X rather, and replace it with a Y. Now I can also do things regarding particular lines. So colon dot comma plus 1 dot J looks to merge two lines together. The current line. The plus 1 afterwards means that the 1 is relative to your current line, and it'll take the current line and the 1 after it and merge it together. All commands that you enter in EX, whether they are in EX itself or within VI, where you begin the line with a colon, will end with a new line or a return key. So in this regard, you have a very real sense about how to delimit your command. The beauty of doing all of this is the simple fact that you can create commands here that will do multiple changes fairly easily, something that you can't do directly with the commands of EX itself. What you're looking at here is where we have started typing text. And you'll notice on the bottom it says colon, S slash, an A in double quotation marks, slash, and a D in double quotation marks and a slash. What it'll do is it will look at the next A on the given line, and it will replace that with the letter D. This is on line 2, column 1. Obviously, also, this is the only text that we have. This is an example of using an EX command inside VI. Obviously, there reaches a point when you are finished inputting text. And in that event, what you want to do is to be able to get back to command mode. You do that by pressing the escape key. Now, the question is, how do you sometimes know whether you are in command mode or input mode? The simplest way is to press escape. If you press escape and you're in input mode, you know you're going to be in command mode. If you're in command mode already when you press the escape key, VI will beep, but otherwise there will be no effect on your text itself. So it's the safest way of determining which one of the two you happen to be in. In the example on the screen, what you've done is typed hello world, and then afterwards, my name is Cy. You can see on the bottom that there are two lines, and you're on the second line and in column 14. At this point, if you press the escape key, you will go from input mode into command mode. Sooner or later, it will be time to end your session with VI. Now, the easiest thing to do, if you're satisfied with what you have, is to type capital Z when you are in command mode. If you have added anything to the text since last time, it will save it and edit and exit. Now, let's say for the sake of argument that all you want to do at this point is to save your work. If you type colon W, and again this is done from within command mode, it will write your file. What you can also do is write colon WQ. It will write the file and then quit the editor. Colon X will do the exact same thing as, of course, capital Z will do. But there are occasions when you want to exit and you do not necessarily want to save what you did. You may have made changes that are disastrous, or you don't like what you wrote. So in that case, what you can do is write colon Q. Now, if you didn't modify the file, it'll quit without writing just like that. But colon Q won't quit if you actually made any changes to the file during this editing session. If you want to save, not to save the version that you have, just quit without saving it, what you type is :Q exclamation point. That will save the file without writing, and it recognizes that you know that you are not going to save what you had, and it presumes that that's exactly what you want to do. In the situation on the screen, what we did was we saved our program, and on the bottom it says hello.c, that's the name of the program. It's 7 lines, 78 characters, and that's all that we have at this point.